If you're over 60 and eating nuts daily thinking you're doing something healthy, I need to tell you about something that happened to one of my patients last month that could save your life. She was doing everything right, or so she thought, until she ended up in my office with symptoms that shocked both of us. The culprit? Something sitting innocently in her kitchen cabinet that millions of people your age eat every single day. I'm Dr. Helen Brooks, and I've been a geriatric nutritionist and internal medicine specialist for over 20 years. In my practice, I've seen thousands of patients over 60, and I can tell you that the relationship between nuts and your health at this age is far more complex than most people realize. What works beautifully for a 30-year-old can actually cause serious problems once you pass 60. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I strongly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip made especially for you. If you find this video helpful, please leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help people just like you. Now, let me tell you about Mrs. Patricia Morgan, a vibrant 72-year-old retired teacher. Patricia was one of those patients who did everything by the book. She exercised 3 times a week, took her medications religiously, and paid careful attention to her diet. She'd read somewhere that nuts were brain food, so she started eating a generous handful of mixed nuts every single day. She felt proud of herself, thought she was taking charge of her health. For 6 months, everything seemed fine. Then she started noticing something odd. Her ankles were swelling. She felt more tired than usual. Her blood pressure, which had been well controlled for years, suddenly spiked. When I ran her blood work, I was stunned. Her kidney function had declined significantly. The problem? She'd been consuming Brazil nuts every single day, and the selenium content had accumulated to toxic levels in her system. Combined with a medication she was taking for her thyroid, it created a perfect storm that her aging kidneys couldn't handle efficiently. Patricia's case isn't unique, and it taught me something crucial that I want to share with you today. At 60 and beyond, your body processes nutrients differently. Your kidneys don't filter as efficiently. Your digestive system doesn't break down certain compounds as effectively. Your medication interactions become more complex. This means that foods considered universally healthy can sometimes become problematic. But here's the good news. When chosen correctly, certain nuts can be absolutely transformative for your health after 60. They can protect your brain, strengthen your heart, reduce inflammation, and even help you maintain a healthy weight. Let me start with the 4 nuts that work wonders for people over 60. First, we have walnuts, and I need to tell you why these should probably be your top choice. Walnuts are uniquely rich in alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that your aging brain desperately needs. After 60, your brain naturally starts to shrink slightly, and the connections between neurons become less efficient. This is normal aging, but here's what's fascinating. The omega-3 fats in walnuts have been shown to slow this process down significantly. They reduce inflammation in brain tissue, improve communication between brain cells, and support the formation of new neural pathways. I had a patient, Mr. Robert Chen, 68 years old, who came to me worried about his memory. He was a former accountant, someone whose entire career had been built on his sharp mind and attention to detail. He told me with tears in his eyes that he'd forgotten his grandson's birthday for the first time ever. He was terrified of dementia. His father had died with Alzheimer's, and Robert saw himself heading down the same path. After running tests and ruling out any serious cognitive decline, I suggested he incorporate walnuts into his daily routine, about 1 ounce, roughly 7 whole walnuts, every morning with his breakfast. I also had him work with a cognitive therapist and make some other lifestyle adjustments. 6 months later, Robert came back for his follow-up, and I could see the difference immediately. His face was brighter, more animated. He told me he'd not only remembered every family birthday since then, but he'd also started doing his grandson's math homework with him, something he said he couldn't have managed before. Now, I can't promise walnuts alone did this, but they were part of a comprehensive approach that clearly worked. The second powerhouse nut for people over 60 is almonds. If you're concerned about your heart health, and at your age you absolutely should be, almonds need to become your best friend. Here's why this matters so much. After 60, your blood vessels naturally become stiffer and less elastic. Your body produces more of a compound called homocysteine, which damages arterial walls. Your cholesterol profile tends to worsen even if you haven't changed your diet. Almonds address all of these issues simultaneously. They're packed with vitamin E, which protects the lining of your arteries from oxidative damage. They contain magnesium, which helps your blood vessels relax and improves blood flow. And they're loaded with fiber and healthy fats that help lower LDL cholesterol, the dangerous kind that builds up in your arteries. Let me tell you about Mrs. Dorothy Williams, 75, a woman who spent her entire career as a nurse taking care of others, but had neglected her own health. When she came to me, her cholesterol was dangerously high, over 280, and her doctor wanted to start her on statins. Dorothy was resistant. She'd seen too many patients struggle with side effects. I told her that medication might still be necessary, but let's try a comprehensive dietary approach first, with her cardiologist's approval, of course. We made several changes, but one key addition was 1.5 ounces of almonds daily, about 35 almonds, which she ate in the afternoon as a snack instead of the cookies she used to have. 3 months later, her cholesterol had dropped by 45 points, her LDL, the bad cholesterol, was down by 38 points. Her cardiologist was stunned. Dorothy cried in my office, not from sadness but from relief. She'd avoided medication through lifestyle changes, and almonds played a significant role in that success. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, comment 1 below to show me you're with me. It really helps me know what content resonates with you. The third nut that works wonders after 60 is pistachios, and I don't think these get nearly enough attention. Pistachios are unique because they have the highest ratio of nuts to calories, meaning you can eat more of them by volume than almost any other nut while still keeping your caloric intake reasonable. This matters tremendously after 60 because many of you are dealing with unwanted weight gain that seems to happen no matter what you do. Your metabolism has slowed down, your muscle mass has decreased, and suddenly you're gaining weight eating the same amount you always have. Pistachios help with this in multiple ways. First, because you have to shell them, they force you to slow down and eat more mindfully. Second, they're incredibly satisfying, keeping you full for hours. Third, they contain fiber that feeds your gut bacteria, and emerging research shows that gut health is directly connected to metabolism and weight management. But here's what really excites me about pistachios. They're exceptionally good for your eye health. After 60, your risk of age-related macular degeneration skyrockets. This is the leading cause of blindness in older adults, and it's devastating when it happens. Pistachios contain lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 compounds that concentrate in your retina and protect it from the damaging effects of blue light and oxidative stress. I treated a patient, Mr. James Anderson, 71, a retired pilot who noticed his vision becoming blurry, especially at night. He was terrified of losing his ability to drive, which to him meant losing his independence. His ophthalmologist confirmed early signs of macular degeneration. Along with proper medical treatment, I suggested he incorporate pistachios into his diet, about 1.5 ounces daily. James was skeptical. How could nuts help his eyes? But he trusted me and gave it a try. A year later, his ophthalmologist told him that his condition hadn't progressed at all, which was unusual. His vision had actually stabilized. James still drives today, and he swears by his daily pistachios. The fourth beneficial nut, and this might surprise you, is pecans. Now, pecans don't get as much attention as almonds or walnuts, but they should, especially for people over 60. Here's why. Pecans have the highest antioxidant content of any tree nut. Antioxidants are crucial after 60 because your body produces more free radicals as you age, and these unstable molecules damage your cells, accelerate aging, and increase your risk of chronic diseases. Pecans help neutralize these free radicals. They're also rich in thiamine, a B vitamin that's essential for nerve function and energy production, both of which decline with age. I had a patient, Mrs. Sarah Thompson, 66, who came to me exhausted all the time. She'd wake up tired, drag herself through the day, and collapse by early evening. Her husband was worried, her children were concerned, and she felt like she was barely living, just existing. I ran extensive tests, ruled out thyroid problems, anemia, vitamin D deficiency, all the usual suspects. Everything came back normal, but she still felt terrible. After diving deeper into her dietary habits, I realized she was eating a very low-fat diet, terrified of gaining weight, and her fat intake was so low that she wasn't absorbing fat-soluble vitamins properly. I worked with her to increase healthy fats, and one of my recommendations was an ounce of pecans daily, about 19 halves. Within a month, Sarah reported feeling noticeably better. Within 3 months, she told me she had energy she hadn't felt in 10 years. She'd started gardening again, something she loved but had given up because she was too tired. Her transformation was remarkable, and it reminded me how something as simple as adding the right nuts can genuinely change someone's quality of life. But if you thought those stories were important, what I'm about to tell you next is absolutely critical for your safety. There are 4 nuts that, despite their health benefits for younger people, can actually cause serious problems after 60. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying these nuts are inherently bad, but the way your body processes them changes dramatically after 60, and the risks often outweigh the benefits. The first problematic nut after 60 is Brazil nuts, and Patricia's case that I mentioned earlier is a perfect example of why. Brazil nuts contain extraordinarily high levels of selenium, a trace mineral that's essential in small amounts but toxic in larger doses. Just 2 to 3 Brazil nuts give you your entire daily requirement of selenium, and eating more than that regularly can lead to selenium toxicity, something called selenosis. The symptoms include hair loss, nail brittleness, nausea, fatigue, and in severe cases, kidney and heart problems. After 60, your kidneys don't excrete selenium as efficiently as they used to, so it builds up in your system more easily. Additionally, many people over 60 take supplements that already contain selenium, or they're on medications that affect selenium metabolism. When you add Brazil nuts on top of that, you're creating a potentially dangerous situation. Patricia learned this the hard way. After we identified the problem, we eliminated Brazil nuts from her diet, adjusted her supplements, and closely monitored her kidney function. It took 6 months, but she fully recovered. She told me she felt like she'd been given a second chance, and now she's incredibly careful about what she eats. The second nut I'm concerned about for people over 60 is macadamia nuts. Now, I know these are delicious, I love them too, but hear me out. Macadamia nuts are the highest calorie nut available, with about 204 calories per ounce, which is only about 10 to 12 nuts. They're also very low in protein and extremely high in fat, about 78% fat content. While some of that fat is healthy monounsaturated fat, the caloric density is problematic for several reasons after 60. First, as I mentioned earlier, your metabolism has slowed significantly. Second, many people over 60 are already struggling with weight management, and consuming high-calorie foods that don't provide much satiety can sabotage your efforts. Third, and this is crucial, macadamia nuts can interfere with your ability to absorb certain medications, particularly blood pressure medications in the ACE inhibitor family. The high fat content delays gastric emptying, meaning your stomach takes longer to digest food, and this can affect when and how your medications are absorbed into your bloodstream. I treated a gentleman, Mr. Michael Patterson, 73, who loved macadamia nuts so much he was eating them by the handful every evening while watching television. He didn't think anything of it until his blood pressure started fluctuating wildly. Some days it would be well controlled, other days it would spike dangerously high. His cardiologist kept adjusting his medications, but nothing seemed to work consistently. When Michael came to me for a second opinion, I went through his entire daily routine, including his eating habits. When he mentioned the macadamia nuts, a light bulb went off in my head. I asked him to stop eating them for 2 weeks and to take his blood pressure medication at the same time each morning on an empty stomach. Within a week, his blood pressure stabilized. He couldn't believe that something as simple as nuts could cause such a significant problem. Michael still enjoys nuts, but now he chooses almonds or walnuts, and he's very mindful about timing and portion sizes. The third nut that often causes problems after 60 is cashews, and this one breaks my heart because so many people love them. Cashews are technically not nuts. They're seeds, but they're grouped with nuts nutritionally. The problem with cashews after 60 comes from several factors. First, they're relatively high in oxalates, compounds that can contribute to kidney stone formation. After 60, your risk of kidney stones increases significantly, especially if you're slightly dehydrated, which many older adults are without realizing it. Second, cashews are commonly salted, and the sodium content can wreak havoc on your blood pressure. Third, cashews are one of the most common nut allergies, and interestingly, you can develop food allergies later in life that you never had before. Your immune system changes with age, and sometimes it starts reacting to foods that never bothered you previously. Let me tell you about Mrs. Linda Martinez, 69, who developed a sudden sensitivity to cashews after eating them without problems for her entire life. Linda loved cashew chicken, a dish her mother used to make, and she continued making it weekly. Then one evening, after eating her favorite meal, her throat started feeling tight, her lips began tingling, and she developed hives across her chest. She was terrified, thought she was having a heart attack. Her husband rushed her to the emergency room where they diagnosed an allergic reaction. The culprit? The cashews she'd been eating without incident for nearly 70 years. After that incident, Linda had to carry an epinephrine autoinjector because the allergist warned her that allergic reactions tend to get worse with subsequent exposures. She told me she mourned the loss of her mother's recipe, but she'd rather be safe than sorry. This case taught me to never assume that just because you've eaten something your whole life, you'll always tolerate it well. The fourth and final nut I'm concerned about for people over 60 is peanuts. And I know this is controversial because peanuts are everywhere and they're affordable. But let me explain my concerns from a medical perspective. First, peanuts aren't actually nuts. They're legumes that grow underground, and this makes them uniquely susceptible to contamination with aflatoxins, toxic compounds produced by certain molds. While regulatory agencies monitor aflatoxin levels, low-level exposure over time can accumulate, and after 60, your liver's ability to detoxify these compounds diminishes. Chronic aflatoxin exposure has been linked to liver damage and increased cancer risk. Second, peanuts are one of the most inflammatory foods you can eat. They contain lectins and other compounds that can trigger inflammation, and after 60, you're already dealing with increased baseline inflammation in your body. Adding more inflammatory foods can worsen arthritis, increase cardiovascular risk, and accelerate cognitive decline. Third, peanuts are highly allergenic, and cross-contamination is common in processing facilities, putting you at risk even if you're not directly eating peanuts. I had a patient, Mr. Thomas Baker, 77, a retired carpenter who'd been eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every single day for over 50 years. It was his routine, his comfort food. But he started developing persistent digestive issues, bloating, cramping, irregular bowel movements. He'd seen gastroenterologists, had a colonoscopy, upper endoscopy, all kinds of tests, and everything came back normal. He was frustrated and uncomfortable. When I reviewed his diet, the peanut butter stood out to me. I suggested he eliminate it for 4 weeks and see what happened. Thomas was resistant. How could his favorite food be the problem? But he was desperate enough to try. Within 2 weeks, his symptoms started improving. Within a month, they were completely gone. He couldn't believe it. 50 years of eating something and suddenly his body couldn't handle it anymore. He switched to almond butter and never looked back. His wife told me later that getting her husband's digestive health back gave them their social life back. They could go out to eat again without him worrying about getting sick. Now, I need to address something really important. Some of you watching this might be thinking, but Dr. Brooks, I've been eating some of these nuts you're warning against, and I feel fine. That's entirely possible, and I'm genuinely happy for you. Everyone's body is different, everyone's medication regimen is different, and everyone's overall health status is different. What I'm sharing with you today is based on patterns I've seen in my practice over 20 years and supported by medical research on how aging affects nutrient metabolism. My goal isn't to scare you or make you afraid of food. My goal is to empower you with information so you can make educated decisions about your health. If you're eating Brazil nuts occasionally, not every single day, you're probably fine. If you have excellent kidney function and your doctor is monitoring your selenium levels, you might tolerate them well. The key word here is might. Why take the risk when there are safer alternatives that provide similar benefits? Here's what I recommend you do right now. First, take inventory of which nuts you're currently eating and how much. Be honest with yourself about portion sizes. A serving of nuts is typically 1 ounce, which is much smaller than most people realize. 1 ounce of almonds is about 23 nuts. 1 ounce of walnuts is about 14 halves. 1 ounce of pistachios is about 49 nuts. Most people eat 2 to 3 times this amount without realizing it. Second, talk to your doctor about your nut consumption at your next appointment. Bring a list of any supplements you're taking because nutrient interactions are real and important. Your doctor can help you determine if the nuts you're eating are appropriate for your specific health situation. Third, consider having your selenium levels checked if you've been eating Brazil nuts regularly. This is a simple blood test that can catch problems before they become serious. Fourth, if you're over 60 and want to incorporate nuts into your diet, start with walnuts and almonds. These tend to be the safest and most beneficial options for your age group. Aim for 1 ounce daily, eaten with a meal to maximize nutrient absorption and minimize any potential digestive discomfort. Let me also talk about preparation and quality, because this matters more than you might think. Always choose raw or dry roasted nuts over oil-roasted versions. The oils used in commercial roasting are often inflammatory and can negate many of the health benefits. Avoid honey-roasted or flavored nuts, which are loaded with added sugars and sodium. Store your nuts properly in airtight containers in a cool, dark place, or even better, in your refrigerator or freezer. Nuts contain delicate oils that can go rancid when exposed to heat and light, and rancid nuts aren't just unpleasant, they're actually harmful, producing compounds that promote inflammation and cellular damage. Buy nuts in smaller quantities that you'll consume within a month or two, rather than bulk quantities that sit around for months. And always smell your nuts before eating them. If they smell musty, bitter, or just off, throw them out. Trust your nose. I also want to address nut allergies briefly because this is crucial information. If you've never had a nut allergy before but you're over 60, you're not immune from developing one. Food allergies can emerge at any age, and the symptoms can be severe. If you ever experience itching, swelling, difficulty breathing, hives, or digestive distress after eating nuts, stop eating them immediately and see an allergist. Don't assume it's something else. Don't try to push through it. Allergic reactions can escalate quickly, and what starts as mild symptoms can become life-threatening. I've seen it happen, and it's not worth the risk. For those of you who can't eat nuts due to allergies or other reasons, don't worry. You can still get similar nutritional benefits from other sources. The omega-3 fats in walnuts can be obtained from fatty fish, like salmon, or from flaxseed oil. The vitamin E in almonds is abundant in sunflower seeds and avocados. The antioxidants in pecans are found in berries and dark chocolate. The key is eating a diverse, colorful diet with plenty of whole foods. No single food is irreplaceable, and there are always alternatives. Now let me share with you my final thoughts on this topic, because I think it's easy to get overwhelmed by all this information. Here's the bottom line, and I want you to really hear this. Your body at 60 and beyond is different from your body at 30 or 40. It's not worse, it's just different. It requires more attention, more care, more thoughtfulness. What worked for you decades ago might not work now, and that's okay. The goal isn't to mourn what you've lost, but to optimize what you have. Nuts, when chosen correctly, can be a powerful tool in your health arsenal. They can protect your brain, strengthen your heart, reduce inflammation, and help you maintain your independence and quality of life as you age. But like any tool, they need to be used correctly. You wouldn't use a hammer to cut wood or a saw to drive in a nail. The same principle applies to food. Use the right nut for the right purpose at the right stage of life. One of my favorite things about practicing medicine with older adults is witnessing the resilience and adaptability you all demonstrate. I've seen patients in their 70s and 80s make significant dietary changes that transform their health. I've watched people reverse decades of poor health habits and reclaim their vitality. It's never too late to make positive changes, and small adjustments often yield remarkable results. Patricia, who I told you about at the beginning, the woman with selenium toxicity from Brazil nuts, she's thriving now. She's found new nuts to love, she's educated herself about nutrition, and she's become an advocate for health awareness among her friends. Robert, my patient worried about dementia, is sharper than ever and volunteers teaching financial literacy to young adults. Dorothy, with her cholesterol issues, recently completed a 5-kilometer walk for charity, something she never would have attempted before getting her health under control. Michael's blood pressure is perfectly managed. Linda carries her EpiPen but lives without fear. Thomas enjoys his almond butter sandwiches, and his digestive system is happy. Sarah is back in her garden creating beauty every day. These aren't just my patients, they're real people who made real changes and experienced real results. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. Don't panic about the nuts in your pantry. Don't throw everything away in fear. Instead, be thoughtful. Be intentional. Read the information I've shared, discuss it with your healthcare provider, and make informed decisions that work for your unique situation. Remember that nutrition is just one piece of the health puzzle. It works synergistically with physical activity, stress management, quality sleep, social connection, and medical care. No single food will save you, and no single food will destroy you. It's your overall pattern of choices that matters most. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from this information. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you're always updated when I post new content. Leave your questions and comments below. Tell me what topics you'd like me to cover next. I read every comment, and I genuinely care about helping you navigate the complexities of health after 60. Thank you for taking the time to invest in your health today. That decision alone shows that you value yourself and your future, and that's something to be proud of. Remember, it's never too late to make positive changes, and small steps lead to big results. Take care of yourself, talk to your doctor, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay healthy, stay informed, and stay empowered.